today I am here with Susan Milazzo, who is the Executive Director of the California MBA. My partner in crime, so to speak. She has been in this industry since 2004, leading that organization, and is the recipient of the Burton C. Wood Award from MBA for sustained service to our industry. She's an advocate, a friend, and an impactful, influential woman. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you, Marcia. I'm very honored to be a part of the mPower series.
We're so excited to have you. And what I learned, since I grew up in the industry, I just assume everybody grows up in this industry, but you did not. You started out in politics, and you said one of the favorite things you did in that job was fundraising. And as you know, I was like, wow, not many people like to go around asking for money. And you said, I love it. It was one of my favorite parts of the job. So it said to me, you are a woman with the power of persuasion. So can you give us some advice on how to be so persuasive?
It does take a lot of power of persuasion to raise money. It is something that I just kind of gravitated to. I was thinking, when you and I were chatting about that, I still remember raising like my first call that I raised $1,000 for, and you'd think that I'd raised $1 million. I was so excited, I couldn't wait to go out and do it some more. But I think, when you're talking about persuasion and definitely is, a quality that's needed to do political fundraising, but what you and I both do now, we are reaching out to our member companies and talking to them about encouraging them to be more active with our organizations, encouraging them to join us, support our efforts. And so I think that power of persuasion is, I definitely use that, in what I'm doing today as well. And I think a big key for it, at least in my experience, has been take some time to communicate with that person and find out what motivates them. What is key for them? In our organization, our mission is relatively simple. It's advocacy, education, and connection. Well, one of those three things are going to resonate more so than the others with anyone. And I feel like in conversations that I have with our members, or if I'm talking with somebody about supporting our organization or supporting another entity that I'm working on, really kind of find out what is a focus point for them, and then expand on that, because you want them to be, you want them to buy in, right? That's the difference between, to your point, persuasion and, just kind of driving your point home with somebody. If you're just, kind of pushing what you think and telling people like, no, you have to agree with me and you have to do this, that's not going to really invite them to, be a part of what you're trying to accomplish. So I would definitely advise people to, take some time to think, find out what motivates that person.
I think that's really great advice. And I'm going to tell you a story that you don't know that I'm going to tell. And I'm not even sure you're aware of the impact you had on me when I was fairly new to my job at MBA. And I went out to the Western Secondary, and we decided we would grab a glass of wine and get to know each other. And you spent most of that time telling me what I needed to be aware of in order to help me navigate the new world I had entered, and shared some things that had happened in the past, which would be obstacles for the National MBA to overcome, and ways that we could come together, perceptions that you knew had changed at MBA, but maybe folks in the California MBA membership weren't as convinced. And you really spent a lot of time guiding and coaching me, which I will always appreciate. You really helped navigate our two organizations to work so well together. And the California MBA is such a great partner with us. And I know we've been working on a lot together. There's a lot going on in California, and there's a lot going on nationally. And we appreciate the partnership. So one, I wanted to thank you for how you reached out to me early on. You really lifted me up, and you were demonstrating the type of leadership that I really needed at that time. I was in uncharted waters. So with that very long story and introduction to my next question, we're in uncharted waters now. We've been this way for over 5 months, and I know you're running an organization and pivoting like we are here in DC. Can you tell me what some of the lessons you've learned personally, as well as in how to manage and motivate your team during the pandemic?
Yeah, that's boy, that caught all of us off guard, right? That was a whole new world entering 2020. I will say that we have had a lot of successes in California this year from an advocacy standpoint, and none of those, I'm convinced, would have been possible if it wasn't for our strong partnership with the National MBA. We've been incredibly generous with our resources, and it has really helped us do the best job we collectively can do to represent the real estate finance industry. So I definitely want to thank you and the great team at the National MBA for the work they continue to do. I've been on phone calls and emails already with staff this morning. So, I think I'll start from an organizational standpoint. We have a very small staff, so I didn't have the kind of the ship to move that the National MBA and all other organizations had. But I discovered that my small but mighty team, I like to refer to us, is very adaptable, and we really within 24 hours were able to have everybody working 100% remotely. We got all of the the resources that they needed as far as technology and connected all of us. And honestly, we didn't really miss a beat. So I learned that I was very proud of the fact that my internal organization could flip that easily and continue to work, because of course. We still, there was still, legislative program that we were still running. We had to figure out what we were doing with all of our events. Same thing that, all the other organizations are doing. So, was, grateful to learn that. We had to learn a whole new way to be advocates at our, from a legislative standpoint, without having the legislature in person. My lobbyists have continued to be extremely diligent in, lots of phone calls, video chats, the phone calls into, weighing your support, and making sure that these policymakers are educated on some of the decisions and proposals that have been floated here in California, and how the significant negative impact that would make on the industry. So, learned that there are different ways to be doing these things, and they can still be very impactful. I think from a personal standpoint, and I know many of us can say this, I have not been without a flight for this long in 20 years, maybe. And so I think, and I'm big on gratitude. Just personally, I like to think of, even in the darkest times, I'm like, what is the one thing I can be grateful for in this moment? And so I thought many times over the last 5 months, I've taken so many things for granted, and I need to be grateful for my ability to travel when I want to be able to go out and get my nails done, go out to dinner, simple things. But I think that, going forward, I just have a whole new set of things to be grateful for.
Thanks. I think, yes, we're all struggling with how do we stay impactful and purposeful when everything is completely virtual. And
right.
We share something else that not a lot of organizations share. Because we're associations, our leadership is comprised of volunteers, people in the industry who have really been dedicated to helping the industry succeed and do better and be led in the best possible way. That also means you get a new boss every single year. So I think it's amazing that each and every year you adapt to a new leader and a new leadership style, and you've been at that organization now for 16 years, so you've had 16 bosses and continue to thrive, and the organization thrives. So what can you tell us about the best way to adapt to new leadership and change.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think I've been doing it for so long, I don't really think about it like that. But yeah, like you're right, because we have unique, unique positions in that. I think adapting to a new leader, you want to make sure that there's a lot of communication leading up to that. Meaning that my new board members that are joining, we have a webinar that I'll take them through saying this is your expectations. I think setting clear expectations going into it, and this is what we do, this is what we don't do, this is how we manage our finances, et cetera. This is your role, this is what your role is not. I think setting clear expectations going into it has been very, very helpful. And also, I sit down with the person who's taking that chair position months in advance, and talk with them about what is it that you would like to focus on in this coming year. Here, they already know because they've been a board member for quite some time. They already know what it is that we do, but there's always something that people want to focus on. And sometimes it's small, and sometimes it's internal. And sometimes it's a starting of a new program, it's a launch of a new thing. And so I just kind of, set our, I think set our goals and expectations up early. Don't let them get too far over their skis and we want to create something that I know is impossible for us to do on our budget and given our time, a year's time. So I think that the adaptation to new leadership, from my perspective, has always been more seamless when I can have that communication. And then I make sure that I also communicate that with my team, right? With my staff, because they need to know, hey, Marcia's going to be our board chair next year, and this is her priority, and this is how she'd like to be communicated with, so that they know if I'm asking them for something, it's, that this is why, or something new has been instituted. This is why. So lots of communication, I think, has been really, really helpful to us.
Communication is key, and now more than ever. I do want to close with thanking you for all of your support of mPower and for bringing mPower to your Western Secondary virtual event happening next month. So I so appreciate it. And my final question to you is, what advice would you give your 25-year-old self?
Well, we are very excited to have the mPower Leadership panel at our Western Secondary Market Conference. My 25-year-old self, boy, she was a ball of fire. I would say probably to just slow down a little bit. I started working in politics literally my last semester of high school. I was 17 years old. And so I was in an adult environment from a very young age. And I put a lot of expectations on myself at a very young age. So I think that if I could talk to my 25-year-old self, I would just say, there's plenty of time. You're not running out of time anytime soon. enjoy things a little bit more. Don't put yourself so hard. But but that was also the year that I was getting ready to have my baby. So it was also a grateful time in my life.
That's great advice. We all need to take a moment, slow down. And I love your advice about gratitude. Susan, thank you for joining us and for sharing your story and such great advice.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Marcia.